And welcome to the Worn and Wound podcast. My name is Blake Buettner, and I'm in studio today in Brooklyn, joined with Zach Weiss. Hey, right there.
Just us.
It's just us. An intimate, is that awkward? It's an intimate watch discussion.
A tete-a-tete.
A tete-a-tete watch discussion with just us, some watches, and a few beers. All we ever really need.
Friday.
Right? And it's Friday, so we're ready to roll. We haven't really done a podcast where we're just going to talk about new releases, talk about watches that are on our mind, any watches that we've had come in that are interesting, that we're reviewing, anything like that we're working on. So we'll get to all that kind of stuff. What is on your? Oh, I thought you'd have something else on your wrist right now, but you've got this on your wrist.
No,
tell me about it.
Yeah, the other one for maybe another week.
Maybe another week. Okay.
I have on my Porsche Design Orfina 7177. So if you've been keeping track of my Orfina journeys, I now have three of these suckers. One of each of the prime models, if you will. This is not something I intended to do and become a collector of, but that was sort of last year's thing.
Yeah.
This one is the jewel, though, of the collection, one might say. So this is the 7177 is the military variety of the Porsche Orfina, which is the Lamani 5100, and the other major visual difference is that it doesn't have a tachometer bezel. Instead, it's a 12-meter bezel. The hands are subtly different. It has the 3H on the dial, indicating tritium rather than just the T's. But this one is green.
It's green.
It has the rare green coating. There's really sort of a murky, olivey, brownish kind of a color.
Yeah,
and
this
was the full kit, mint condition,
even with the bracelet too.
With the bracelet,
you got it on a leather strap now, which looks very good.
I put it on a rally strap because I was wearing it on the matching bun strap, which was also part of the kit. And I was wearing that. I was just like, even that is kind of like I'm ruining it by wearing it, you know. So I'm trying to keep this one somewhat preserved. I haven't sized the bracelet, which is killing me because it looks so good on the green bracelet. But like an idiot,
you're gonna cave.
I have two more of them at home. So I have this basically the same watch in black, not the 717, but the 7176, which is like the racing variety in black, and that one's on the bracelet, and that one I wear freely. So I don't know. I was just feeling them earth tones today, and I mean this watch is just stunning.
Let's be honest, you're feeling earth tones a lot of days.
I feel earth tones every day.
And that's okay.
I hate the summer, and I like fall through spring, so long as it's like below 75, so I can wear overshirts and
you can layer up a little bit.
Layer up on my earth tones, get some. Yeah, you know how it is.
It's a nice we're having kind of like unseasonably warm weather right now. It's like mid 50s right now. That's like perfect. Like sunny, mid 50s, not too breezy. You can wear some layers. You've got lots of options.
My outfit stays like this consist of an overshirt and then a heavier overshirt over that overshirt. And it's wonderful, you know. So
are you big on shackets?
Yeah, oh yeah.
Yeah.
That's all I need.
Yeah, I like that.
Even my jackets are just heavier shackets. You know what I mean?
You just wear enough of them. Yeah, you're layered up just fine.
I wear a Filson jacket most of the time now, like unless it gets like below freezing, and that is it's a shacket. It's just a heavy wool shacket.
Heavy wool. Yeah, that's the way to go.
Yeah.
I have an actual coat, and I always feel weird. It's a Filson one. I always feel like I'm about to go like into the woods hunting.
Yeah, this one's a bit like that. It's got that like back pocket. That like supposedly
for like your shotgun shells.
Yeah, or like somebody said it's for putting game in.
Yeah.
Like you shoot a pheasant, you put it in there. But then they're just your jacket would be covered in blood. That doesn't sound practical. But what do I know about hunting? You know?
Right. So spoiler alert, we're not big hunters.
Yeah. I carry bagels in there and
bagels, beers, well, strap change tool maybe. Every now and then. No, those are really cool watches.
Thanks.
And it's really like I know you have the three of them, but that was never. It's like I don't remember talking to you one day and you're like, "All right, I'm going to start collecting."
No, it was never. It was
Porsche
really just
designed Orfinas.
A matter of circumstance. You know, I'd gotten a green one at the end of 2021 that turned out to be inauthentic, and I returned it, and that sort of started me. But I loved it. It was gorgeous, but it was inauthentic. I really enjoyed wearing it. And just as like regardless of the color and everything, this watch for Lamani 5100 watch, which tend to be thicker, chunkier chronographs, just wears really well. I think it's better than others I've had.
Yeah. It's a tricky movement. The case profile handles it pretty well. Like the actual like mid case portion of the design isn't that bad.
I mean, it's still thick. It is a thick watch, but I don't know. The footprint isn't bad either on it. They kept it compact, all things considered.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then I got the black one. I think I've told this story before, but I got a black one that I had refurbished, and then I lowballed on eBay and got a 7750 one because I got stuck with it. It's awesome also. And then this just happened to pop up and I couldn't say no.
Lowballing watches on eBay has become like your thing.
I know. I've been chipping away very slowly at an editorial on this, and like it just feels too much like therapy and not like an article.
You're getting it out there. You're coming to terms with some of these watches that you
exactly. It's like, it's not lowballing out of malice. It's lowballing out of a lack of commitment.
Yeah.
Which is different.
And then when it hits, is your immediate feeling like, oh shit. Or
well,
like,
I have the integrity. I'm not going to back out.
Yeah.
If you win, you win. You gotta stick with it. Otherwise, you're not good.
And the watches that you end up getting are pretty cool.
They're great.
They're pretty cool watches.
For sure. I'm not unhappy at all.
Yeah. So that's all right.
Yeah. Anyway, there's a lot about me and my watch. What are you wearing?
Well, I thought you were going to be wearing that other watch.
Oh, that other watch.
So I'm wearing a Rolex Submariner 14060. So a couple of generations old. So nice. It's relatively recent, and I've been wearing. We wear a lot of different weird watches for reviews and stuff like that. So it's like sometimes you don't get the chance to, or you like having the chance to kind of go back to like a watch that you recently picked up to just like have some time with it. And so I thought,
I just thought of an idea for an editorial.
Yeah,
so we can spitball this here.
Let's do it.
The palate cleanser watch. This is something for reviewers and I could see Rolex's, Seikos, certain watches that are just like core, not exotic, just classics.
Yeah,
being a nice palate cleanser from reviews, and I could see that sub being that kind of thing. It's like tried and true. It is what it is. I
like this concept. Yeah. I think I probably got this is a few that kind of immediately jump to mind of watches that like I look forward to jumping back into. Like that SPB 149 Seiko. If I haven't worn that for a while, I kind of like look forward to. I'm like, I'm gonna wear that tomorrow, and then I like get excited about it. Because I still enjoy that watch and some of the weird other watches that we have. But I was
just wearing my Speedmaster 3520, which granted is a little out there. It's a triple calendar, but it's just such a nice watch to wear. I forget about it when it's on my wrist, and it's like, it's. I don't know. Maybe we should pitch this. Maybe it should be a group effort. We can each throw in our palate cleanser watch.
Yeah. If you're listening to this and you have palate cleanser watches, let us know. Yeah. We can include them, or maybe it can turn into the next, where users submit their
we all have palettes.
This is my base kind of center line watch. So I like it. And this sub is cool. I still don't know if I'm going to keep my other. I probably don't need two of these. So
you have the maxi,
the super case and the maxi dial. Yeah.
Okay.
So the 114060. And then this 14060. So the newest 12460 is kind of like a combination of both of those watches. But I like both of these watches more than I like the new one. Yeah. So I just have both of these. It's hard, and I'm not a very sentimental guy, but I've built some memories in this other Submariner that I've talked about on this podcast plenty of times. Do I get to a point of where enough, where even I'm like, I'll keep it around, instead of just like immediately out the door.
You've referred to that watch many times as like the memories you've had with it. Yeah. And also I think, we say, I'm not a sentimental guy. Look at this hobby we are in. I think it's very sentimental in a lot of ways. Like there's two ways to approach it. Kind of, you could be a flashy person who's just wiring jewelry watches, want to show how much money you spend. That's none of us.
Yeah.
Or you're probably sentimental,
These are sentimental objects at their core, I guess. And a lot of times how we maybe think about justifying their purchase. I'm going to keep this for the rest of my life, and I'm going to wear it. Like, I guess that goes
and I feel like I'm going to miss it.
Yeah.
That's sentimental.
And we just talked about how we miss wearing a certain watch that we want to get back into. So. You're right. I guess when I think about it is, I don't like, there aren't a lot of objects that I assign value to because of those things, but maybe I do subconsciously and I don't really realize it.
Yeah. I think so. Yeah. And I mean, as somebody with 3 of basically the same watch they acquired in a small amount of time, and none of those watches have like been in my life to have seen significant moments. I think like those two watches, those two generations of Submariner are pretty far apart. Aesthetically.
Yeah. So, they are, and they wear very differently, and they're both kind of like weird for their own reasons. And
I mean, on a personal level, I feel like that's a really nice sweet spot for subs. I mean, vintage subs being what they are, modern subs being what they are, that's like right in the middle.
Yeah, it wears really well. I mean, that ceramic bezel it's got a flash to it for sure. You notice it. So I don't know. It's still a sub though. So I mean, mine is like kind of banged up. So I guess that adds more sentimentality to
each of
it.
the bangs, yeah.
so it's all right.
What's the year on that one?
This is like kind of a late version of it. So this is probably like 2008, 2009, kind of in that realm.
Interesting.
So not like
it's
old.
later than I thought. And it's interesting. So that has a drilled lug still.
They all did, yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, right on up to. So the ceramic sub became that on the date model in 2010, but the non-date in 2012. So this one went right up to that line.
Okay, interesting.
So,
yeah, because I know the Explorers, recent interest in Explorers. I'll leave it there. From that era, were ready. They really did not have drilled lugs. Like they dropped that in like the 90s, right? Early 90s. So I thought that was older because of that.
Yeah, and it's the same with the 16570. Our later versions from around that kind of turn of the century. Sounds weird to say. That switch over to a solid lug and a solid end link as well. And this didn't get any of this. So I can't put the bracelet from my 16570 onto this, which is kind of a bummer. Because it's got that kind of old rattly charm to it.
The jangle.
Yeah. I'll put it on a NATO or something one of these days.
Oh yeah, that look good.
Because all my Rolexes are on Oyster bracelets. Is that okay? I like Oyster bracelets.
Okay? Why not? Sure.
Is it
Why
weird?
not?
I don't know.
But it's another reason to have two. It's gonna be
I can put
your weird strap.
Yeah, the weird strap, because I can't put anything like that on the other one because that fat lug just stands out on anything else. So I don't know. All right, so let's talk about what some of the stuff that has come out recently. You brought up an interesting fact before we came on to this about Seiko. So Seiko released a handful of watches like over the last week, including some new solar GMTs, which are pretty cool. And then these new King Seikos. Yeah. And the big news was like, it's a new movement in it, the 6R55. And all the hubbub about it being a 72-hour movement, 3 days of power reserve. And then we were kind of had a wait moment. The 6R35
is 70
hours of power reserve,
which was always like a nice aspect to it. And
70 hours is a healthy power reserve.
21,600 beats per hour. I need to look up the 6R. It's brand new, the 6R55, and like it was dropped with these King Seikos. Dropped. Look
at us, we're cool.
Yeah,
dropped.
It's part of these new, the announcement of these King Seikos, but they went so far as to put 3 days on the dial. And is it all about 2 hours, or is there more going on there? If it was like, that's what I'm curious. Actually, I'm gonna do a little Googling. Is it 28.8? Because look, let's put it out there. Love Seikos, but there's a lot of criticism of their workhorse movements in both for the price that they are not at the same like level of accuracy as Swiss competitors. And they're also, in 21,600, there's a lot of movements out there, 21,600, but 2824 variations, SW200, whatever it is, those are all 28.8. Miyota 9015, 28.8.
Which in a faster beat rate allows it to more consistently get back into its regular rhythm in spec rhythm. So theoretically, you are having a more accurate watch throughout the course of the day. If you average out all the little bumps and knocks and all that kind of stuff that it gets, if it's beating faster, it's going to more quickly get back within its optimal timekeeping rate. So when you slow it down, it's more of a tendency for it to get off of that for longer periods of time, which ends up adding up to.
And yet there are plenty of like chronometer grade movements that are 18,000 beats per hour.
And they have like gigantic balance wheels.
But it was very. Regardless of that, though, I will say I really like the King Seikos. I like that they brought them back, and I think this new series is gorgeous. Do I think they need to be 39? Not necessarily. The 37 was really nice, but that's probably more consumer friendly and like.
Yeah, that's true. And the limited edition version is 37 millimeters, and I don't think that has the new movement.
No, I think it's just in the 39 millimeters.
It's just in the 39s, yeah. But the LE is quite handsome. I like that dial a lot. brown tortoiseshell.
So it's just
cool.
So I'm just looking up our colleagues Monochrome, they what they're posting. I'm just curious what other people are saying. If we maybe miss something. No, we don't usually miss it.
We're not perfect.
We're imperfect. Yeah, we're just humans.
You've noticed.
So still featuring 24 joules and maintaining the same 3 hertz frequency. So still 21.6.
Yep.
It shares the same architecture with the only notable difference being a slightly increased power reserve of 3 days or 72 hours versus 70.
I wonder if it's like, strange. I wonder if there's an accuracy rating that they're guaranteeing within the 72 hours instead of it's just has a power reserve.
They're not saying anything about it that I'm seeing. Interesting.
Surely there's more to
to come on the 6R55.
Well, we're gonna we're on the case here, okay?
Which is interesting because Seiko's also made various. They've had calibers, many calibers for a long time. That's a silly thing to say. They're an old brand, but like they'll take these movements and they'll make small modifications to them. They'll go like 6R 35A, B, C, and like 2 hours of power reserve feels like a. What do you call it? Like a synergy, like a efficiency increase of some kind, right? Maybe it's the balance spring. Maybe something got hollowed out. Maybe they expand, somewhere. It doesn't feel like new caliber level, but that's also fussy, whatever.
Like when you update a piece of software and it's like from, 7.1 to 7.2, but it's not making the jump to like 8.0.
Yeah.
This feels like a 0.1.
Right? Exactly. So a marginal upgrade. An upgrade though, it's 2 hours.
An upgrade's an upgrade, and you can say it's one of the new movements on your wrist. So so it's cool, and it's nice to see them just paying attention to the King Seiko range of watches. Which is
movement aside. These are very nice looking watches. You're talking about the limited edition. That dial is outstanding. Yeah,
it's gorgeous. I'd love to see that in person. Yeah. It looks like it has a lot of depth to it from the pictures that we've seen.
Like dégradé as well as the hexagonal.
Yeah, with the brown tones. It's cool. And you're a big like browns fan.
I like brown. Earth tones.
Earth tones. All right, we've established. Yeah.
No, I am. And I feel like brown watches are, they're not the most common. Brown dials. I really like that Grand Seiko. I want to say it's the SBGW 293. I reviewed it a little while ago, but reference
with the brown dial,
with the brown dial.
Winder,
and that was not a limited edition. It's like a core tobacco chocolate brown dial. It's a nice option. Like if you're wearing like a blue suit or something, like a brown dial could be nice. Kind of compliment to that.
Match your shoes and your belts.
Yeah. Exactly.
Your glasses for you.
My glasses. Yeah, I got these tortoiseshell glasses. Tortoiseshell dial.
Tortoiseshell dial.
When I did that, I got it.
It all comes. Wasn't Paul Rudd just spotted wearing one of these?
Yeah,
things?
the red
one.
Yeah.
Okay.
At some award show.
Premiere, probably.
Premiere for Ant-Man.
For the Ant-Man thing.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's quite the premiere watch. That's nice for them.
Yeah, I mean that's I don't know, like that feels like an interesting choice, and it's nice to see a watch like this kind of appear in that kind of a context where we're used to seeing different kinds of watches.
Like everything I say about celebrities, Paul Rudd gets a pass no matter what.
Paul Rudd gets a pass always. Yes, Paul Rudd, surely he listens to this podcast. Paul Rudd, you can come on the pod anytime if he's wearing that watch. I mean,
he's got to be friend.
Do you think somebody gave it to him? A stylist gave it to him? Like I know that
such,
most of them it's like the case, but I like to think some of them are like, no, I just like watches. I'm gonna wear what I want to wear.
Well, that's the thing though, because it's like, I don't know, let's call it a $5,000 watch. It's probably right ballpark there. Like, it's not the flashiest celebrity watch. I mean, like they're usually wearing some gold or whatever version of an Omega. Like it's usually like like an elevated version of a core model that's like a little bit more expensive than the average. This is the watch you and I can just go buy if you're in the market for it.
And this particular reference, I don't think I was familiar with it in the red dial.
They came out with a lot of them last year.
Did they? Man, maybe this one just like flew under, but it wasn't like this was a brand new.
No. I mean, it was like within the last 6 months probably, but
but it wouldn't be like, okay, this is a part of the PR campaign for this watch is to put it on this celebrity. Or that's why I'm saying like maybe he's just into this stuff.
They also have no Marvel tie-in. That's
maybe he's one of us. So maybe the SBGW line of Grand Seikos is the Paul Rudd of watches. That's a safe. Like, how could you not
figure
like
out what that means?
How could you not like it? It's like everybody likes it. It's like always good looking, no matter what. It's kind of ageless, right?
Funny when it needs to be.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's a cool watch, and it's one of the few times that I've seen a post about like a watch that a celebrity was wearing where I kind of stopped and was like, "Whoa,
yeah,
that's pretty cool," which happens from time to time.
Yeah, sure.
All right, so another brand that we see a lot on celebrities that released like a million watches last week was Audemars Piguet. I feel like I'm always saying that wrong.
I don't know.
Audemars Piguet.
I just
Do you
assume
say
I never.
the S?
I don't think so. But
Audemars.
I'd
If
say
you're from
Audemars.
Wisconsin, you say the S.
Yeah. I just say Audemars Piguet.
Audemars Piguet.
Audemars Piguet.
Okay.
But I just
Audemars
assume I
Piguet.
pronounce all these things wrong because
I'm sure we do.
I'm not
Yeah.
French Swiss. So
Yes.
um,
Yes. Spoiler alert: we are not French Swiss people.
nor did I take French. I barely passed Spanish. So,
But you're like a Manhattanite, so
Yeah.
it comes with the territory.
to speak French for me.
to say fancy.
One croissant, please. Yeah.
I'm from Wisconsin. I have the excuse. Like, I don't know anything about that. So.
Yeah. Audemars Piguet.
Audemars
AP.
Piguet.
AP for sure.
AP, Audemars Piguet. Yeah, they had a lot of stuff come out this week, and I think one watch that we all kind of commented on is the Code 1159, kind of like coming into a realm of like maturity that maybe we didn't see initially, and and kind of fully maybe like appreciating that platform a little bit more now.
For sure.
And I'm not going to get into specific references or this or that. They've done crazy watches in this thing, and probably the craziest, the RD4 came out with this batch of releases. But the Star Wheel and some of the other kind of like the open work version of this thing, the more that I've kind of seen them, I'm like, oh, okay, there's something to this watch.
When I first saw the open work version of the Ultra Complication, I was like, I couldn't make heads or tails of what I was looking at because it's really complicated. It's a 23 complication, ultra complication watch. And like you have this crisscrossing skeletonized dial that if you look like in some of the apertures where things get crisscrossed is information, which is like, and at first it looks, my initial reaction was like, I don't mean this as like an insult to the brand. It's just the thing I saw when I looked at it was a transformer face.
Yeah.
And like, because it has like kind of like higher eyes, like proportional, like the subdials are a little bit above the horizon. And but as I've continued to look at it and realize what's going on, like it's become more interesting. I don't know. It's not even like necessarily about like the success of the aesthetics at that point, at a point of a watch. Like it's like they've shoved so much watchmaking into a single watch to say they could.
Yeah.
And then make it for sale too. It's not just like
it's very impressive and all that. But I like that. I think just because of how we look at watches, that's kind of immediately where our head goes is to those little kind of, and it's the same things that we think about when we look at a Seiko or a Ferrer or whatever else. Like it's, I don't think of it like, oh my gosh, it's this $1 million whatever. It's that's interesting. They put this here and it's like kind of affects visibility of this other area. That seems like a practical issue, and because we just like can't help ourselves.
Yeah, I know.
So, but a lot of, and that's why I think the open work is the interesting version compared to the, because they have a closed dial version, and then it's just these like seemingly random apertures like dotted all over over the dial.
It's fun. It looks so conservative next to the other one, in like an amusing way almost. But I like them both. I would consider, wearing.
You'd consider them both. It wouldn't bother you the legibility of the year.
Yeah, exactly.
Or something.
But there's on the open work also they have. Because it's a chronograph, of course, on top of everything.
Of course, there's a chronograph in there.
I mean, that's complication 2 or 3.
Yeah, exactly.
In the list of complications. The way the hand is sort of hidden in like a triangular sort of a little shape. Like it's all very like there's things to sort of reveal information as you look more closely, like all the crisscrossing averages. And a favorite thing, which actually relates to another new release of recent Piaget, is that the moon phase is just a circle with the like shadow moving over it, which can we agree is perhaps the most elegant version of a moon phase?
This is the superior manner of understanding the phase of the moon at the moment, I think. And we talked about it with with that Piaget, which I think we were both quite fond of, the Polo Perpetual calendar. And I'm like kind of neither here nor there on the Polo. as a whole.
Yeah, me neither.
But I think this was like the most successful version that I've seen of it.
Yeah.
And it's a very like clean, legible layout for Perpetual calendar, which is cool. And then it's got the moon phase, as you said, at 6:00 at the bottom of the dial, which is like this kind of minimal, just hole with it's either kind of like in some phase of black or white, and that's it. Which seems reasonable. And it fits like the aesthetic of the rest of the watch really nicely.
But typically you find the classic moon phase on Perpetual calendars, especially ones with that layout with the like sort of 4 subdial quadrant sort of layout. They go for that traditional semi-spherical or whatever you want to call it aperture with the like
with the humps.
With the humps. Yeah. I mean, that's the classic.
The hills.
Right. I mean, the AP that came out has that.
Yeah.
Well, sorry. Let me go back because there's 2 APs.
The other AP.
Phases the Perpetual, Ultra Thin Perpetual has the classic
Royal
moon
Oak.
phase.
Yeah.
Whereas, but yeah, I don't know. I really like it. And they're not the first brands to do this. I mean, even the IWC Perpetual calendar sort of has something similar, but it's doing North and Southern Hemisphere at the same time.
Yeah.
Which is also a nice looking way to do it.
Yeah, talk about an unusual approach to it. But I feel like there's like an aesthetic symmetry to them.
Yeah. Well, there's people that live in the Southern Hemisphere. Their toilet bowls go the other way.
Are there? Is that how it works?
Yeah.
Coriolis effect.
Remember that Simpsons where he calls
episode. Yeah, exactly.
That's how we all learned about it.
That's how we What he made the prank call to some kid in Australia just to ask if the toilets ran in that direction.
And for some reason, it's like the phone is like 14 miles from his toilet.
Yeah, because he lived in the middle of nowhere. That was the joke about Australia. Sorry, Australia. We know you're very civilized. Like there's big cities there and everything, right? Yeah. So
huge place. Anyway,
so moon phases.
Yeah, but this is how we all learned about Australia's from Simpsons. If you're our age group.
Yeah, if you're listening, you know what we're talking about. The cool watches, and I think Perpetual calendars are kind of interesting watches to ponder, just period. Just because there's a lot of things to consider in like how you're going to present it in a obviously pretty small space. I think that IWC Portofino Perpetual calendar, maybe it was an annual calendar that came out recently that had another very clean take on.
They did a Perpetual last year, the like 40 millimeter Perpetual, right?
Maybe this is
it is
a Perpetual.
IWC does annuals as well.
Yeah, and it is a Perpetual.
Yeah, but maybe it did not have a moon phase or something.
It didn't have a moon phase. But it was very clean looking in his presentation, which I really appreciated. And I think once you see a bunch of them, and I know that you've been kind of like looking into poking around Perpetual calendars a lot lately. Yeah, if you've come to any like grand conclusions about this is the proper way to.
No, it's fine. I mean, the classic way is that sort of quadrant, right? Like, and that's where the earliest ones, I believe, Patek Philippe is the first brand with a serial produced Perpetual calendar.
Yeah.
You have subdials and, usually a fourth sort of circle where it's a moon phase or something. But then other brands just kind of do completely outside of the box sort of methods of layout. And I think it's really, it's interesting because you can deal with this information very cleanly or in a very complicated manner. You can, and it's actually not that hard seemingly to make it pretty clean. Some of the information you're looking at, you really don't need.
Yeah.
Like a leap year indicator, you don't need to look at very often. So they're usually like made much smaller and kind of like submissive to other things.
Yeah.
Just because it's on my mind. But then the AP Ultra Thin, they have these like drooping subdials that come off the day and the month, I believe. One's like a little night day and one's a little leap year. But they're so subordinate to those other ones that you like naturally aren't going to like look at them too much.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? One of my favorites is a Breguet from the 90s. 3310, I think. I might have that wrong. Or 3331. But it's they separated every piece of information out. So there's like 5 subdials and they added a power reserve. Yeah. So this one looks really chaotic. And at first it also looks asymmetrical, but it is symmetrical. It's just that on one side is an arcing power reserve, on the other side is a moon phase. So that kind of breaks everything. But like, it's like looks really chaotic. But then you realize, oh no, every single piece of information just has its own place, which is also cool.
Where to look.
It's all really.
I like
It's,
unique takes
fun,
on this. And of course, like, the Oxen Jr. has a version that's like beautifully simple and kind of minimal and like kind of.
But they don't tell you anything. You gotta learn what it does.
Yeah, and you have to remember kind of everything. And then there's others that like have like every aperture is labeled like year, month, day. Where like they have to hold your hand through it all.
No, totally. And there's IWC had some with like jumping like digital windows on them, which are pretty cool. Right. I don't know. It's a fascinating complication, or almost like, I don't know what you call it, like a category of watches, basically, because it is a high-end complication, right? The most affordable, quote unquote, perpetual calendar is the Frederic Constant, which is starting around 9,500, I think. So like that's the entry into the world of perpetual calendars, and like if a brand is going to make one, they're going to like do it special, right? And
it's a special watch.
They tend to have a signature sort of style. And
it's like, it's kind of a ridiculous thing when you think about it, and especially when you explain it to somebody for the first time. And it's a lot of trouble that's gone through, and it's a very special thing. And what it really boils down to is like this one day every 4 years that's like saving you.
Yeah, but that's what's
not
so perfect
that much
about
work,
it.
but it kind of exemplifies. I don't know, the insanity of what like we get
the
into
insanity of watches. It's just that all this fuss is about one day every 4 years. Which is just to account for like the difference between solar and time and solar calendar and the Gregorian
calendar. Which
and then it also has to it's once every 100 years. If the year is
divisible by 4.
Yeah. So 2100 is going to screw up all of the perpetual calendars, except for the Anderson-Geneve secular calendar.
And that new AP that we were just saying. That's a semi-Gregorian calendar as well. That will be the next.
So I don't know. It's just, this is all absurd. I mean, it's all absurd, but it's like Sisyphusian sort of efforts to do a little thing to wear it on your wrist. So you can be like, look at that. Once every 4 years, hopefully you don't forget to look down and watch it all tick over.
Would you want to own, like, I know we love and appreciate these for the kind of the mechanical, like ingenuity and beauty that's here, but does it seem appealing to own one?
I think so.
Like, or does it feel like, oh my God, that would be like such a headache to own one?
Well, the problem with owning one is that you can't ever let it die. Sort of. I mean, you can, but you have to reset them. They're notoriously difficult to set. There's an article on A Collected Man about perpetual calendars that is very good. Look it up. And there's a part in there where they say that watchmakers refer to them as boomerangs because they keep coming back. Because they're so easy to screw up. Some brands have gotten around this and they made them, I think, easier to set. But like the classic ones, But that all aside. Because it's like it's done. I don't know. Like it's smart in a way. It does something really sophisticated, but also really anachronistic and all mechanically. But I feel like it has to almost be your one watch. Like that is it's got all the information on it.
That you need every single day. So that's the watch you go to every single day to get day, month.
I'd settle for an annual calendar. And annual calendars are. I mean, they're not common, though, is the thing. It's not like everyone makes one.
It seems weird to me because it's obviously a practical complication, a full calendar. And the use of the perpetual calendar is like so strange. It's just that one day. And the only difference is that one day for an annual calendar. Like you would think they would be a lot more ubiquitous. Yeah.
And it's not like we don't set the times on our watches constantly and adjust dates and things like that. It's not like it's that hard of an effort for us to do this one little thing, right?
Yeah, exactly. So at the end of February, not the end of the world. It's fine.
Longa has an annual calendar and several perpetual calendars. The Longa one perpetual is one of the nicest layouts as well because they have the peripheral month
ring,
which just totally changes it,
which is very, very cool. We'll put a link to that down below. You should check it out for sure.
Also available with the tourbillon.
Also available with the tourbillon.
If you want a little more absurdity. In there.
But that's a watch that like doesn't present itself as like that's like a full calendar perpetual. I mean, a closer look and like you see that all that stuff is there, but it's such an unusual kind of layout. like a lot of Langs.
Yeah.
There's my Wisconsin. Kind
Your
Langs.
Langs and Audemars.
Lange and Jeune.
There you go. There you go.
Yeah. So,
Much better.
but you like complicated watches. Like you're drawn to like complications, and that's kind of what appeals to you about a lot of like mechanical watches is the complexity that they can put into that small case.
Yes.
Right. At the end of the day.
Yeah.
Versus like, me and my dateless divers. Like, that's kind of boring. That's not very impressive, Yeah,
I don't know. I just like.
But you also have some great, like, simple.
Yeah, no, I mean, most of my watches are completely simple tool watches. And it's only recently that I think I've gotten a little bit more into things. But at the same time, I don't really even have anything other than chronographs. I mean, I have now like a watch that is high end and has like hand finishing and things like that, but it's a simple 3-hand watch.
That's right.
It just looks like it's a lot more.
It looks like a complicated watch. It's the same with your work. Like it looks like, oh my God, but it's really just hours and minutes, and that's literally the only thing it does. It's very simple. Yeah. And when you explain it to people, just like your watch, I'm sure, there's the hour and minute hand. It's like, oh, of course.
Yeah, exactly.
So I guess we can talk about that now because you've
unveiled it.
You've come out as an owner of a Piguet.
A Piguet tradition. Yeah.
What is this? What is this like? Like, what has it been like to own this kind of under the radar?
It's
because listeners, he's had this watch for a while.
Yeah, I got it a while ago. Yeah. What's it like? Well, I have to wear wigs like a lot more often.
Yes,
a lot of more like petticoats, things of this nature.
Yeah, the kind of people you hang out with.
Yeah,
find yourself in Upper Manhattan a lot more often.
Right? A lot of secret doors and clubs and things, and violin concerts and. Whatever. It's
a silly watch to have, but it's so cool.
Yeah, I mean, the Piguet is a really interesting brand. Obviously, if you're in this hobby, the name, and the great watchmakers all revere him with the utter regard, the work of Abraham Louis Piguet, and yet the current version of the brand, which makes beautiful watches, absolutely outstanding high watches, is just undervalued.
Mm-hmm.
And, and whatever, we're in like a blip of time in which that's the case. It doesn't mean the brand itself is anything but excellent. It just is not at the top of mind. It's not at the top of mind of collectors. Yeah. And the benefit of that, if there is one, is that watches pre-owned go for really good rates compared to their MSRPs, which are fully in high-end luxury territory.
Yeah.
So, the little math and a little crunching, what can I sell? What can I flip? And I was able to, to make our way to 7037.
Yeah.
And it's a piece of art. It's a piece of art. Mm-hmm. And, I've never owned anything even remotely like that. Mm-hmm. And, it lets me appreciate another level of watchmaking that is hard to access, looking at the anglage, looking at the hand finishing, knowing the effort that went into it, and then the precious metal aspect of it, it's a real rose engine turned guilloche gold dial. The other guilloche is either on solid gold or on mother of pearl for some of the women's watches. But when you see a Piguet and it looks like it's a white dial, that is gold that has been frosted.
Yeah. Just incredible. It's so like, I know it's a watch that you came across and were obviously like pretty enamored with, but since you've owned it, it's kind of heightened your awareness and appreciation of Piguet as a whole.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, it's a fascinating brand. The ebbs and flows in the 20th century, when it changed hands a few times. End up with, and I don't know if I'm going to pronounce their name correctly, the Chaumet brothers in the 70s, who brought on Daniel Roth and others to kind of revive the brand. And that's where they really made the switch from what they were doing, which I feel like still pocket watches, more bespoke kind of things, but very little for a while, to recreating the historic aesthetic of Piguet into wristwatch form.
Yeah.
And I mean, there's their early Perpetual calendars. The first tourbillon that Piguet made that was a wristwatch size, because obviously Abraham Louis Piguet invented the tourbillon, was in that era. Yeah. The catalog's amazing from the 80s and 90s. I think around the late 90s, it changed hands to Swatch, and Swatch has built up the brand a lot. I think they've increased the capacity and whatever, and they've been very technology focused. When you look at the stuff they make, like that 10 hertz watch with like a magnetic pinion and stuff, like it's absolutely amazing. Still in the super neo-traditional style, you know?
Yeah. They're doing cool stuff. And you know, a brand that more people should be paying attention. I think there's, and you know, I think we maybe said a very different brand, but a similar kind of thing with Ulysse Nardin. There's maybe an unpalatable aesthetic for some people, or a generation of people or something that just kind of don't pay attention to, oh, there's something seriously impressive going on here, kind of under the skin.
I think it's swinging back though. I mean, Daniel Roth had this huge boom for his independent watches. Another amazing company worth looking into, and you can see where his knowledge of Breguet turned into his own brand too, particularly in the early Daniel Roth watches. But just an appreciation of that like neo-traditional aesthetic, the like late 1700, you know, look. Because you have, I mean, George Daniels wrote the book on Breguet, and he was very much, I mean, directly influenced the aesthetic of the George Daniels watches. I mean, so did English pocket watches, but things of that era. You have Vuittelanens, you have Urban Jurgensen, you know, they're all drawing from a similar era. And that stuff is, you know, you look at Lane and brands like that, or Ophion. I mean, people are pulling on it and they're getting more popular, and it's, you know, that's the original, those are the original watches, right? That's like the going back to the roots of watches. It might be formal, but it's, I don't know. It's there. It's like, it's not, it shouldn't be ignored, certainly, in your collection. And I don't know, wearing a watch like that, Roman numerals, guilloche, that kind of stuff, not as weird as I thought it would be.
Not as weird. No. And it scratched your itch for gold.
Yes.
Right? You wrote an article a while back about
really
like,
scratched
gold
it.
Curious and all that kind of stuff. Like
it scratched a little more than I expected.
This works, right? Now you're like, it all has to be gold.
Because you know, you can get them in white gold. But yellow gold is like the traditional look. So I was like, if I'm going to go Breguet, I'm going to go yellow gold.
And it's a good yellow gold. It doesn't, I don't like, there's enough depth and things going on that it doesn't just look like a flat gold thing. Like
no, I mean, you know, they have the rolled, like their cases are pretty interesting too. It's they have it's called like a rolled edge mid case, so the coin edging in the middle, and they're welded lugs with a screw bar, which I don't know if the screw bar itself is gold, but it's gold toned. Gold bezel, everything, gold rotor, a lot of gold.
But it's kind of like a dish, the dial that you're kind of like looking into. Components of.
Well, it's so interesting. Yeah, because it's just like a movement, right?
Yeah.
I mean, so the traditions, and they came out in like 2006, so in like Swatch era, I think really were a huge shift and really, you know, helped put Breguet on the map at the time. And I know like that those watches were acknowledged by great watchmakers of the time, you know. People throw around, the people love to quote Philippe Dufour, but like that Philippe Dufour that I said was a great one, you know, like stuff like that. But it was one of the first, if not the first, or like escapement dial side watches that was at least mass produced. I'm not 100% sure on the accuracy of that, but it's given credit for that, or maybe popularizing it. And yet it draws like 1-to-1 in many aspects of Breguet's subscription pocket watches, which were actually the cheap pocket watches that he made.
You know? I feel like that was a really fun time or kind of era, the late 90s into the early 2000s, where there was some pretty like trick experimental things happening that have influenced a lot of what we see in independent watchmaking now, from like the dial side escapement, the Ulysse Nardin Freak is you know, kind of put it in that orbital,
right in that same time frame,
like right in that in 1999, I think. Carol, her last name is escaping me. We'll put it in the description below. Who designed that went on to work for Cartier in developing some of their kind of astro lab movements, where they would put the you know, the balance way out, kind of moving around on the edge of the dial. I think she's with Tag Heuer now, and she manages all of their movements. But
that's cool.
But yeah, I mean that was crazy stuff. That was kind of like what. Yeah, and from brands that we don't really think about now as being like hip, cool independent brands, but like these were the people doing this kind of stuff.
And I mean, it was an interesting approach by the brand to kind of like be bombastic, but within the framework of neo-traditional watches. So like they did not Yeah, I mean, what was big at that time, like Panerai, and like people
yeah.
wearing big, hefty watches. Rolex went to the super case or whatever.
Yeah.
Like, how do you compete with that, but stay true to the identity or the DNA of Breguet? And they have the Marine line, which is a little bit bigger, but it's not like flashy. And Breguet is a very different language.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you think that I think we always kind of talk about how formal watches are becoming more of a thing that people are talking about and thinking about wanting to have in their collection, whereas the kind of like approachable tool sport watch kind of thing has been so dominant in our culture, at least, or in the kind of enthusiast circles, like, do you think that's still evolving? Like, it's still kind of moving in that direction, or do you think it'll ever get to like that case? I know we kind of blur the genres a little bit, and watches that are kind of sporty or whatever have like there's more elegant versions of them being created.
I feel like I mean, mid-century watches have been the thing for at least 5 years now, and like they're ubiquitous. And I was just reviewing the Vulcain Skin Diver Nautique.
Yeah.
I'm gonna mess that up. Which is a really nice watch that doesn't stand out anymore because there's so many mid-century divers, and that's not I don't mean that's an insult to them. They did that thing really well. They made a mid-century dive watch really well. It's beautifully finished. It's great to wear. Really no complaints about it, but the market is saturated, so it no longer stands out. Which is kind of cool because we reached a point where you have your choice.
Yeah, you're right. But that watch in like 2012 would have been like revelatory. It would have been like, whoa,
38 millimeters. What? Like domed crystals.
Like color. Like that would have been like on
100%
point. And they were doing very different things in 2012.
Yeah, very different things. Yeah. But it's an awesome watch. But like, for people like us and like many of you are listening and many of our readers who have now been collecting for this period of time, this reemergence of the watch world, and have been at it for 5 to 10 years, like, you already have a mid-century sport watch. You have it to watch. And now we flip them around, whatever. But like, dress watches just weren't the thing. So that's like the hole in the collection.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And Baltic, Furlan Mari, I refer to them a lot. Like, they both killed it when they released their respective dresser watch. I mean, Furlan Mari kind of only works in that territory at the moment. Smartly so. I mean, nobody else is.
Yeah, they're doing really cool things. And I think it's almost like done in a way though that like you could still get away with wearing it with t-shirt and jeans or whatever. Like, it's got enough flexibility where it doesn't feel like a true.
Well, that's the thing. You can with all of them.
Yeah.
Right. Like, we think of like Pateks or something. It's like watches you can only wear with a tuxedo. But you like, I don't know, you look at classic like mid-century Pateks in particular, or like, they're as straightforward as Seamasters and as day or not day dates perhaps, but like oysters and perpetuals. Like, they just had a practicality to them, and a lot of them still do. We just have.
That's true.
Kind of like marginalized anything that isn't sporty into being formal.
Yeah.
Is
it like unhealthy for us to even think about these things? Where I have to have a watch that's like a high, adheres to these like genres. So I have something for every occasion instead of thinking a little more holistically about the watches that you have and like the wardrobe that you have and like your style and all that kind of stuff.
And I mean, things can get kind of tricky there. Like, I don't really know what is the best outfit to pair with a guilloche dial, but
it's not in the rule book, right?
But when I've been wearing the solid gold Breguet tradition with a guilloche dial with black jeans and work boots, I don't hate it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And I feel like that's how a lot of these things, that culture catches on. Like, you see somebody cool wearing something unexpected, and it like works with how they look. Paul Rudd wearing
Paul Rudd.
the Grand Seiko. But you know what I mean, like the celebrity in like a ratty outfit, but wearing like a solid gold Royal Oak or something like that, and it's like, you can pull off all this stuff. Like, of course, we don't look like those celebrities or have those clothes or whatever like that. But that's not the point. The point is, it's like you can. Like, you have to feel comfortable with the watches that you're putting in, not because you have a watch for this occasion and that occasion and this occasion, but in thinking, well, this is like how I like to present myself and how I like to dress and the style that I like lean into more, and how do my watches like fit into this. instead of thinking about them as like, well, this formal watch I can't wear here, this sport watch I can't wear there. And I feel like those are
sometimes you just need to be
blurred.
shown how the mold can be broken, and like, Cartier crash on Tyler the Creator, like Tyler, he's a designer, golf wing and all that stuff, and like chose that watch and he wears it with streetwear, very stylish, like, and you're like, oh yeah, right, it works. Yeah, it works. It might not be for me or whatever, but like he's proven that watch is not just like this haughty-taughty jewelry watch kind of a time. And now you can't buy one, whatever. Yeah. I don't know. Maybe the crash you never could. That's like kind of an obscure watch, but like
But the 5 time zones. That's the
that thing is bonkers.
Yeah,
Anacar made like a 5 time zone. I don't think anyone's cool has ever worn it, but it was a neat watch. Like it might have more than 5 time zones
because they didn't have somebody to sell it to the right people, right? And I feel like that's half the story. And shout out to our friend Malika Crawford and Hodinky for the story that she ran on this. I'll keep my thoughts on this watch to myself, but I think there's no denying the kind of bridging between these like cultures that happened. And
Jacob & Co. like doubled their revenue or sales or something last year, man. They're on the up and up.
Yeah, I guess so. Again, like not a brand that I like think too much about, but I think it's just interesting how those things happen, and really just taking like a few kind of points, moments in time for people to kind of see that and then realize, it kind of opens the door to a whole different thing. And I think that happens in a lot of different ways as we're browsing Instagram. For us personally, and how we think about the watches that we put in our watch box, which is I think more the world that we like to live in. So not about like the impression that you're trying to make to other people or the status that you're trying to reflect or whatever, but just you kind of understanding who you are and that the watches that you can have and make work don't need to kind of be along the tool watch, dress watch, dive watch, field watch, whatever like that my collection has to have. And, obviously none of us are.
Take a risk and buy something weird. And then we make that
buy something weird.
Try it out. You might be surprised.
Yeah.
I will say, like having something with hand finishing on it, whatever. Be able to take a loop to it. Like I hold that watch and just look at it at home a lot. Yeah. It's a different. It's more. Just the craft comes through and you have, any watch can be called a piece of art, but you have that like literal, like somebody sat there and did this sort of piece of art kind of a thing,
It's like perception altering. When you like really take it in and consider like what's going on there.
So much care went into it, which is like, I feel like you say that about one thing, it's like you're not saying about other things. Care goes into all of them, but like, I mean, you're paying for it though,
Yeah,
so it's not like, of course. It's why people obsess over longa movements, right? Yeah. It's like the level of attention and care. They build them twice and finish it, and all this other crazy shit. So
and if you get into this stuff, go follow Horo Mario Bro. I said that.
Horo Mario Bro. I think is and his like macro shots.
Yeah, he does these macro shots of his like insane collection of watches. Capital I, capital N, capital like he's got all these crazy Grubel forces and longas and all this kind of stuff, and he'll kind of point out in like macro detail like what elevates some of these movements from the normal like high end
or movement. How aghast he is at that one little curve in the thing.
Or the sidewall of the hand isn't finished as well, like this hundredth of a micro, but like those are the details that the people on that like collecting those kind of watches care about.
If you care about that, then you buy Grand Seiko. Grand Seiko is the one with the like infinitely sharp edges on their hands.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah. So that's the point of this episode. Go buy a Grand Seiko. Paul Rudd
be like
wears
Paul
one.
Rudd.
Go get one. Go get one. All right. Well, we want to hear from you. Let us know your thoughts on all this stuff down below. What do you think about dress watches? What do you think of Breguet? You should be paying more attention to Breguet, right?
Yeah, we should all pay a little more attention.
Pay more attention to Breguet. Yeah. Or don't, whatever. We'll still enjoy them. We'll still enjoy them.
I'm happy.
From our end. All right. That is our show. Thank you for tuning in. If you enjoyed this, go leave a review for us on Apple, wherever. I don't know.
iTunes,
I don't even know where you go do this. Wherever you listen to this on, if you can leave a review for us, we appreciate it. Leave your feedback, good or bad. We'd love to hear it. So, all right. Well, thank you for tuning in this week and every week. And until next time, take care.